Hey everybody, welcome to day 2 of Gen Con. Here you can see the card Hala in full form. At the end of the video I'll have kind of a transition from the beginning of day 3 to kind of show you how much this grows day by day. I believe this is, I don't remember when I recorded this actually. I think this is about a day's worth of work, maybe a little bit more than a day. So we're going to go into a couple of videos here, show you some miniatures, and I'm going to do a lot of like kind of little reviews today. So the first thing to look at here is Simon just announced Ankh, Gods of Egypt, kind of the third in a trilogy, Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and now they've gone to Egypt. So not a whole lot's known about this game. I do know that you don't win by victory points. So it's going to be kind of an all or none type of thing, I think. Not too much information's out here. Just wanted to show some of these amazing looking miniatures for this game. Yeah, I really like the scorpion here. I got a good shot of that one. And so it looks like it's going to be kind of a similar thing. You're controlling gods in some, shape or form with possibly some of your units and troops. You can see a couple of them there. So I'm pretty excited about this coming to Kickstarter in 2019, the sign says. So they just announced this yesterday, and so we'll take a look at this. The other thing I wanted to show you was the Bloodborne board game. They had painted miniatures here. Don't know quite very much about this game, actually, but I was like, holy cow, these look awesome. So I said, well, let me just grab some video of these painted miniatures. And now I'm like, well, I kind of want to just get the game to paint these miniatures. I have no idea how this game works. I know the Dark Souls board game, which wasn't from Cool Mini or not, was kind of a disappointment to me. But Bloodborne's a video game I actually played and kind of enjoyed. Like, it's a little bit more difficult than I need in a video game. Like, it's just not how I want to spend my time. But I did, I thought it was a really well-designed game and everything. So I'm curious how, this board game is going to translate. I think this could be some good miniatures for beginners to paint too. There's some nice texture and things on them. So we're going to jump into some reviews. I'll get some of the negative ones out of the way. First thing to talk about here is Sinister Six. This is one of my anticipated games from Gen Con, and it was just a big fat dud for us. First of all, the component quality is not great at all. So that was kind of a disappointment, just kind of open the box and see the cardboard was very, very skinny and thin, and there was a lot of just kind of iconography, everything. It was just kind of a disappointment. There wasn't really much going on in terms of components. Then I was like, okay, well, let's get into the gameplay, and really, the game is very much on rails. Like, you kind of have like your little deck of cards for each of the different villains that you can choose from. And then you're going to kind of lay out these random heist locations that have some icons that you're trying to do matching on. And then you're just kind of playing cards to try to match and stay in the game. And then if you can't, then you're captured and you're out. So basically what happens is anybody that's not captured at the end of a heist is going to split the loot. And so you can see some of the icons in advance and some of them are hidden, and you play through 3 of those. Then you kind of do like a final battle thing. But there's really like, I don't know. It's just, this is kind of play cards, do the effects, get the icons going, and that's kind of it. So it didn't really feel like there was a lot really to the game. So I was just, immensely bored by it and kind of disappointed by the production of it as well. So that's Sinister Six. The next game to talk about in the negative, unfortunately, is Suro Phoenix Rising. Now, I know Suro kind of has like a 50-50 shot. Anybody I talk to either really likes it or doesn't really like it, doesn't get it. My group's played the original quite a bit and the Rising Seas quite a bit as well. So I was pretty much looking forward to this, and this is going to boast about, having flipping and rotating tiles and some kind of different thing. You're actually going to score some points and things. And so I was pretty interested in how they were going to kind of change this up. But we kind of played it 2 sort of aborted plays of it. And then I realized we were kind of playing one thing that was sort of unclear, wrong. And but then we played it again. It was like I won on like the 3rd turn or something. It was like, what the heck? This is like not, so the really I could boil it down to, it removes like all real tension about it and the kind of antagonistic approach you can take and talk smack about to each other as you sort of drive each other into walls and things. This is not, it just, there's no tension here because you're really trying to score points. Now you can still get eliminated as you run into somebody else or run off the edge of this little board that you create. But the way that you can kind of daisy chain points and things, and it just was a super bad play, very anticlimactic feeling. So it was just an overall disappointment. Now, finally jumping into a very positive experience with Nine Tiles Panic from Oink Games. If I had to kind of sum this one up, it would be like Galaxy Trucker in 1 minute. So what you do in this game is you have these crazy funky tiles. Everybody's got the exact identical set of 9 tiles. And they have all kinds of weird things going on at CIA agents, aliens, hamburgers, kids running around, roads, houses, all kinds of weird things. And you have this pretty good sized stack of goal cards. You flip up 3 of them and it'll say like, have the longest road, have the most CIA agents chasing aliens, have the most aliens eating hamburgers, all kinds of just weird different things. And so you flip the 3 goal cards up and you say go, and everybody flips and rotates and tries to arrange their tiles in real time. And then the first player who thinks that they're done grabs the first player marker. And then they flip a hourglass timer, and then everybody else has that amount of time to finish. And as you finish, you grab, second, third, fourth. And then once everybody's done, you make sure everybody's legal. So you need to have like the roads organized. You can't have them going into dead ends and things like that. And then you examine that and you compare everybody to the gold card, whoever had the most CIA agents or whatever it is. And then you get points based on where you sort of fall out there, and you play to a certain amount of points based on the number of players. That's it. But it's super fun, super fast-paced, and you're kind of racing and you're trying to arrange everything in different ways. Everybody's got the same tiles. And played this several times yesterday and just had an absolute blast. I went and picked it up the game actually in the vendor hall today, and really looking forward to playing this more and more. So that's 9 Tiles Panic from Oink Games. Actually a little bit bigger of a box than they normally do, but I definitely recommend this game. The next game I'm going to talk about here is Copenhagen. This was also a very positive experience. Played this actually 3 times yesterday. And I really did not expect to enjoy the game. I actually sat down with Marco Arnaudo of the Marker Wargamer YouTube channel. He actually showed me 9 Tiles Panic already. But we sat down and he'd heard some good stuff, and I'd heard some good stuff too, but we were both like, this isn't really our style of game for either of us. But we heard good things, and we heard there was a good roll and write too. But let's play the the original, the real game or whatever. And we read through the rules. Even after through the rules, it's only like 3 pages of rules. So we just picked up the box, read through them, and we're like, I don't know, let's try it. And then probably about 3/4 of the way through our first game, we were like, okay, there is way more going on here than meets the eye. And then we said, let's play it again. And Marco kicked my butt both games, but I still had a good time. And then even in the second play, I started to see, and Marco started to see as well, that there was really like a lot actually going on in this game. So what do? You get some cards, and you take cards from the center area. And when you take cards, you always take 2 cards, and you have to take 2 cards that are adjacent to each other. And they're just different colors. They match these different colored tiles. And then the other action you can do, instead of taking cards, you actually play cards. So let's think Ticket to Ride. You take cards or play cards. And then you play the cards, and based on the number of cards of a certain color that you play, let's say you play 3 blues, you can take a tile that's 3 spaces long, that's blue. And then you stack it like Tetris, and then you get points for completing rows and columns. You want to have windows, when you get more points if a row or column has all windows. And there's a couple other rules. And then there's some special abilities and things that you can grab if you cover up these little coat of arms icons. Very simple, simple, elegant, kind of medium weight Euro, let's call it. And it's like a medium light even. But once you start to sort of unlock special abilities and chain things together and see how the pace of the game rolls out, it's just really, really fun and engaging and fast-paced and gripping and exciting. So I definitely recommend Copenhagen. Now, I got a chance to play it later on in the night with 4 players. Still really liked it, but I definitely liked it better as a 2-player game because the row of cards that you choose from doesn't change so much. So you can kind of plan a little bit there. And it's a good kind of back and forth kind of racing to get some of these more funky shaped pieces and things like that. So I think it's going to be better at a 2-3 player count. 4 player is still fun. Everybody at the table that I played with 4 player and taught it to had a great time. But I think it's going to be a little bit stronger at a lower player count. But I would still definitely play it at 4 player. Yeah, I want to play it a little bit more at 4 player to kind of get a better sense of maybe there's a little bit different approach you should take when playing it with higher players. But that's Copenhagen. Definitely really surprising, and I definitely recommend it. Next, another surprise is the Funkoverse Funko Pop game. This is okay. This is crazy. So they have a main box, the DC box, which is like Batman and Batgirl against the Joker and Harley Quinn. And that box, unfortunately, at the Board Game Geek hot room was missing some pieces, which was a bummer. So that was fine with me because I was not super interested in playing the DC version. So we picked up the Golden Girls box, the old Golden Girls TV show from the 80s. So you may not remember that, but I do. And the Rick and Morty box. So we had a team game where there was 4 of us playing. And we had to roll off because I wanted to be the Golden Girls. And then Dave on the other team, he wanted to be the Golden Girls. So we had to fight about it. So we did a roll off. They won. So it was them Golden Girls versus us, Rick and Morty. And each of the boxes kind of comes with different scenarios and things, and you get a different number of these little Funko Pop, miniatures, and then you play a scenario out of one of the boxes, and it's it's a skirmish combat miniature game. You move around on a little square hex, board thing, and move around, and you do challenges, which is sort of like a fight, and you have kind of somewhat thematic skills and things. So like the Golden Girls, Blanche, she can flirt and do that kind of thing, and then Rose has a different ability. I don't remember what Rose's ability was. And then Rick and Morty have these cool little weird gadgets. Morty had like a little teleporter gun. I don't watch Rick and Morty, so I'm not sure how thematic this stuff is. And then Rick had a bunch of like one-time use abilities that he could use. And a lot of times the scenarios that I looked through and the one that we played were kind of like area control things. You'd go like flip points, like kind of like King of the Hill points. You'd flip them, and whoever had the most markers at the end of the round would get a point. And then you can knock people out. You get points for knocking people out. And there's like little point things and stuff that you can do. So you run around the map and roll dice and fight. The one interesting thing about it mechanically that I thought was really cool was when you put together your characters, you create a token pool. And you have just different colored tokens. So as you combine and mix and match, so we could have had like Rick with Blanche and Morty with Rose if we wanted to. And then you make that collecting token pool of different colors. And then all the abilities on your cards and things, when you activate them, it'll be like a yellow 3. So you take the yellow token that you have in your pool and you put it on this kind of countdown timer. Think of like Star Wars Rebellion, if you ever played that, when you build a ship and then it like slowly ticks down every round. So you have these abilities that you can sometimes use over and over again, and other times you use a big ability and you got to wait a couple of turns for that cooldown timer to run out. So that was actually relatively crunchy and interesting, and just the zaniness of Golden Girls versus Batman versus the Joker versus Harry Potter versus Rick and Morty. I'm not sure what all the different things are going to be coming out for. It was a lot of fun. Like we were all laughing and just being hysterical about Blanche like kicking everybody's butt. And Rick and Morty like, what are you doing? You've invaded the Golden Girls' home, and through some time portal or something. And I don't know. It was just like silly fun, and I don't think unless you had the Funko stuff that you could really get away with it. Because the Funko stuff really kind of just adds to that zany, otherworldly, silly feeling. And but I'm definitely going to be interested in checking this out because I like that you can kind of plug and play and pick up the stuff that you like. So if you go get the Golden Girls box, you can just play that, and you can play Blanche versus Rose. And and there's actually like little minion things in there that you can use if you want to add more players in those little boxes. And then the bigger boxes, then you can add like a 3 versus 3, and there's like little tokens, but then you can mix and match, and so you just kind of get the stuff you want and have a good time and play around it. So, and the gameplay was solid. Like you wouldn't expect a Funko Pop game where you have a skirmish of Golden Girls versus Batman or whatever to be really that interesting mechanically, but it was really, really interesting. So definitely take a look at that. That's the Funkoverse kind of series of games. That was a interesting and fun, good time. So unfortunately, I have to kind of end on 2 kind of downer notes. So the first game we played here, I believe this is from Plan B Games, is 5211. Now this isn't a terrible game, but I don't know that I really need to play it again. So it's an interesting thing. So I'll talk to you about it because maybe it'll be interesting. Some folks were not as negative on it as I was. So you have a big old deck of cards, all different colors, a bunch of different suits. And you draw 5 cards. So it's 5211. Draw 5, play 2, play 1, play 1. And then you always draw back up after you play. So you draw 5 cards, you got different colors, different numbers, and then you take 2 cards, everybody puts them face down simultaneously, you reveal them, and then you got, some cards out there of different colors. And you kind of see which colors are winning. You just count the number of those colors. You don't count the number on the colors, but you will score those for points. So we put 2 cards down, and then you draw 2 back up. Now everybody does 1 face down and reveals, and then you draw another card. And then you do another one face down and reveals. And then the color that has the most of a color, you score those and discard the rest. So if we've got like 6 greens out, and that's the most, everybody that has any green cards puts them in your scoring pile, and then the number of points you get is the number actually on the card itself. And you just do that until you play through the deck and you play through your last hand. Now you can bust, which is the interesting part, sort of, where, like, depending on the number of players, let's say you have 7 or 8 cards of a color, that will bust, and that's no longer the highest value card, or the highest counted card. So then the next highest will then score. And then if anything is tied for the highest, those will also basically kind of eliminate each other, and then the next highest will score. So we play it with 5, and I think it's probably not the greatest with 5. You probably want to play it with 3 or 4. But even so, you kind of, it sort of tricks you into thinking you have some control because you're going to be influencing what the highest color count is. But then it's like you have no clue what's in anybody's hand or anything. So it's all right. I don't know. It's not really that fun. I was interested in when the rules were explained. I'm like, oh, that's neat. You can kind of try to sneak in, get like a 6 value card that's going to score. And there's a couple other little minor rules that I'm leaving out. But it just didn't really work out to be as fun as interesting as the rules made it seem to be. So check it out, 5211. But yeah, I don't know. There's like a million other better games too. So that's that. And then the last game is going to be Ecos. And this is a new game coming out from AEG. And this one really fell flat for a lot of us. So this is a new game coming out from them, and it reminds me of a game called Rise of Augustus, which came out a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it's kind of like glorified bingo. And so was Rise of Augustus, and I kind of liked that game. That game got kind of a lot of flack, but it had some interesting stuff to it. And this has some interesting things, but you're basically pulling tiles out of a bag, and then you have these cards in front of you, and then if they pull a symbol matching a symbol on the card, you mark it. And then once you mark all the symbols on that card, you say echoes, or you say bingo. And then you activate that card and do it. And then you rotate the card. So some cards can be multiply used, so you activate it and maybe lets you put out land tiles or animals or move tiles around or whatever. And then you just score points in different kind of ways. And you get more and more complex cards. You start with like a starting hand of like, I don't know, what's it, like 10 or 12 cards. You have so many to kind of sift through. And they get more interesting and more complex, and you're trying to sort of combo stuff. But again, we played with 5 players, so maybe this stuff was kind of changing too much and to really plan anything. But can you really plan anything anyway? Because you have the whole bingo aspect of it. We had one round where you basically keep drawing tiles until you draw the wild icon, which then triggers the bag of tiles to be passed. And somebody, they drew that for their first tile, and it was like, well, that was dumb. And then it's just like, the thing is the production of this game is amazing. It's fantastic. I mean, it's one of the most gorgeous games I've seen here. The animal little tiles are well illustrated. I liked all the icons on the cards. They got a nice, flair to them. I liked all the tiles and the mountain pieces and the little trees, little wooden trees and stuff. And they comes with like these built-in trays that you can build out of cardboard to put tokens in and keep things organized and stuff like that. So it's a really nice production. But we just had so many like flat moments. And one thing that I really didn't like, so if somebody pulls an icon and you don't have any of that icon available, you've covered them up or you don't have cards with the icon on them, then you rotate this little tile to like show like, oh, I got screwed this round, so I rotate it. And then if you rotate it again, then it allows you to like draw a card or get an extra cube or something. And I was like, oh man, why is that like that? Like, I just don't like that you have to sort of monitor that. Like, I didn't get anything. And the act of like literally just rotating this tile for no reason. And it's like, ugh, that's just not a fun thing to do. I mean, I understand what it is. So, like, if you get kind of screwed over a couple of rounds, then it gives you sort of a compensation. But I don't know why that bothered me so much. It's just like it's not a thing I want to do when I'm sitting at a table playing a game. Is just rotate this tile to like, hey, you didn't get anything. Hey, you didn't get anything. Like I'd rather just do nothing than that. Anyway, so yeah, it's a kind of a funky, weird game. I don't know. There's really like a lot to it, but the production is nice, and that's that. Okay, that kind of sums up day 2. I'm not sure if I'll have a day 3 video in due time. Yeah, I'll be traveling tomorrow, so the stuff that I've been doing today, I might not. I'll try to get to something, but that might be like a day late or something. And I'm leaving early Sunday, so I won't have a day 4. But I did have a day 0, so. But I'll definitely at some point talk about the games that I play today and stuff like that, and probably not much more from the haul. But anyway, that'll come out at some point. Thanks.